Well, we've got a new champion. Italian broadcaster and journalist Daniele Fisichella is the man to take on this week after claiming the title courtesy of an inventive play on the Roma-Torino game. This week, he'll take on the only handicapper to ever defend the crown successfully, James Eastham. Welcome to Betting Weekly Extra Time, European edition. You're with myself, Dan Roebuck, while senior handicapper Steve Wyss is also with me to give us his picks and assess these selections from our challengers. A reminder, our guests only get paid if they appear on the show, and you've got to win the head-to-head to stay on. Steve, a nice same-game parlay saw Daniele win last week, and sometimes you've got to get a bit creative. You've got to look beyond the obvious to get these winning plays.
Yes, it was good morning to you, Dan, and to James and Daniele. It was a good pick from Daniele. He read the game well. He knew that Roma would struggle after that trip to Eastern Europe, and I think it was a late equaliser against them as well, wasn't it? So he read the game very well. I think Rory will look back and consider himself as unlucky because I think he went with the percentages, he went with the stats. I mean, how often would that Real Madrid derby not have more than 5 cards in them? I think probably 3 times out of 10. So he was unlucky in that respect. And we mentioned the Barcelona win to nil stats as well. So I think he'll look back and think it was just one of those. But that is betting. And I was surprised we only got one win from the boys out of 4. But it could, on another day, we could have got all 4 in if certain things had gone in a different direction.
Yeah, plenty of plus money picks last week. I mean, Daniele turned a profit because you're tipping plus money picks. So good selections, Daniele. You can't always rely on Jose Mourinho, as all of us have found over the years. But they did what you suggested they might do last week, and they came good for you.
Yes, because Roma, I think anytime Dybala and Lukaku are going to be on the pitch, are going to be good values for goals. They do create chances. They play well against Torino. They create chances. Lukaku took his goal really, really well. But it was a very hard-fought game against an informed Torino, who, by the way, lost yesterday at Roma against Lazio. But they are improving. And, with Zapata up front and with the plenty of options they got in the end, they finished with 6 attacking players on the pitch. They created chances. They scored from a set piece against Roma. So credit to them. But yes, in the first half, he was tight because, yes, Roma came from a midweek game in Tiraspol. So in the end, it worked out a fair result to the draw.
James, it has been a while after 3 weeks on the spin, including 2 wins. How's your form been recently?
Yeah, it has been a while. Great to be back, Dan. My form's been pretty good recently. Ligue 1 is my thing, as you know, all about the French top division. And some interesting things going on there. We've got 2 teams at the top of the table who we're not tipping on, I don't think, this weekend in Brest and Nice that nobody would expect to see at the top of that division. So it's an interesting league standing over there at the moment. But yeah, feeling good and quietly confident about my.
I like that. Today. I like the confidence. We've got some good plus money picks over the course of the show, so stick with us. Just a word on what happened in midweek and what didn't happen in midweek to a certain extent. Daniele, obviously you focus on Serie A mainly. Games in midweek, does that make it easier when you look at the weekend card because there's a bit more recent form, or does it not matter? Is it harder to keep up with injuries that have happened on Wednesday and Thursday nights? What's your take on the games coming thick and fast in Italy?
It makes it more difficult, especially when there are league games, because, for example, today, Thursday, the day we're recording, there are 3 fixtures in Serie A, and that automatically eliminates from my selection 4 games at the weekend, because, yes, Frosinone play Roma, but then the games of Fiorentina, of Empoli, of Bologna, of Monza, they're all affected because I'm not quite confident in betting 2 matches ahead of me. So that's already restricts the selection. But yes, of course, there is more work involved because you need to focus on the Tuesday game, on the Wednesday game, work your odds quite late at night after the Wednesday games are finished. I mean, it's all good fun, but obviously for anybody who looks at football and analyze football, you want to have as much time as possible to watch the highlights, watch the game, read the papers, see the comments, and make your own mind. Now, obviously, the turnaround, it's pretty quick.
It is an 18-team league in France, James. I mean, is there a sense that is working out? I don't know how many midweek slots there are in Ligue this season, but it was designed, obviously, to take the workload off off the French game. And obviously, in England, we've seen League Cup matches this week. We've seen a full round in Spain and in Italy. And again, from a betting point of view, you've got all week to assess what you're going to look at for the weekend card.
Yeah, it definitely helps on that front, Dan. You've asked about the midweek cards. I don't think we have a single round of midweek matches in France this season, which is obviously a result of going down to 18 teams and having only 34 match days. The thing I think is crucial here, Dan, I think it will benefit the sides who are only playing in League One as opposed to having European games. They're the teams I think are going to benefit. Nice are one of those sides. I'm mentioning them because I backed them pre-season in the without PSG market. So it will be interesting to see once we go through this very busy autumn schedule for the teams who are in Europe, whether the sides who haven't been playing in Europe benefit, I think, in the second half of the season.
Yeah, it's interesting that obviously France ditched the League Cup a few years ago as well, so it really has slimmed down the schedule. Steve, don't know if you've got any thoughts on this. There's always an awful lot of soccer midweek, and as bettors, we can get sucked into playing on various different leagues because we want to get involved. But sometimes if you can have a more considered pick, you've got a big run to the weekend, you don't have to worry as much about midweek injuries and so on. Does it make it a little bit easier for bettors?
Yeah, I hate midweek rounds. I'm absolutely delighted the French have gone in this direction and moved to an 18-team league. I think it's going to be very productive for their teams in Europe as well. The Bundesliga have had a very similar approach for several years now. I actually think the Premier League will be better doing it this way. The Championship's ridiculous, isn't it? 46 games. There's a midweek round every other week, for goodness sake. And it's challenging because, like Daniele said, our champion here is certainly fighting different elements this week. Not only a challenger coming for his throat, but it's effectively, Daniele, it's like he's betting in the Icelandic League where he's restricted to like 5 or 6 games because we don't know at the time of recording what the results are in the 3 Serie A games. So it is very, very challenging territory.
The rules are simple. If you've not been with us over the first few months of the season, 2 picks each from our challengers. Whoever has the best record with their selections stays on for next week's head-to-head battle. If we have a time, we haven't had one yet, then Nigel Seeley, our content director at Because We Win, will decide who the winner is. That's what we think is going to happen if we get a tie. Let's hope we don't. Daniele, you are the defending champion, so you get the first pick. Lecce Napoli is the game that you're focusing on here. Napoli are -117, which I think is a really good price. Lecce plus 325. With the draw at plus 285. Just tell us what's been going on over the course of the last few days, week or so at Napoli. It's not been easy for them, both on and off the field, although it got a little easier in midweek. They were without a league winning through. We've had situations with their star striker as well. Just let us know what's been going on first.
Yeah, the TikTok gate now, it's exploded. And after Victor Osimhen and his agent found out that Napoli had posted on TikTok a video that mocked him for asking for a penalty in Bologna and missing it, they were threatening legal actions. Now, I don't know if you guys are on TikTok, but last night I spent a few minutes on TikTok of Napoli, and the content that Napoli put on TikTok is absurd. It's very left field, depends on the taste. They mock players, they mock opponents, they do these kind of things. I think the video that they posted is a little bit of a bad taste, but it's not the first one they did. But by the way, judged on the reaction of the players yesterday, 4-1 win against Udinese, Osimhen scored, Kvaratskhelia scored. Well, give the social manager a pay rise.
Indeed. Come on then, let's get the selection for this one. Where are we going? What's the play? Because once again, you're ordering off the menu and you've got a bit creative with us.
I'm going to go for Napoli win and over 1.5 goals. Plus 120. By the way, Lecce and Napoli on the same points in the table. So who's the favorite here? Well, I think the champions. They haven't had the greatest start of the season so far, and the chemistry between the players and Rudy Garcia is not quite there. The Frenchman asked them to play more directly, less passes. Lobotka, who was one of the most creative midfielders and best midfielders in Italy last season, now is mostly running backwards. Osimhen and Kvaratskhelia have been subbed a couple of times. Not extremely happy about it, but they did react against Udinese. By the way, it was Udinese who is in very, very good form, so you need to take everything with a pinch of salt. But finally, we saw Kvaratskhelia scoring. He hit the post twice. They were convincing. They were the old Napoli that we admired last season. Now, only 2 wins in 4 away games so far this season. Only one clean sheet against Bologna. I do think Napoli might go to Lecce and actually concede, because the weakest point of the team is the center backs, because Rahman is out. The new signing Nathan, we haven't seen it much. Juan Jesus, I wouldn't trust him. Ostigard as well. So they are perhaps a little bit shaky. But this is Napoli, who last season collected 45 points away from home. Best attack, best defense. Osimhen, Kvaratskhelia fired up. Of course, midweek they got Real Madrid. Lecce, 0 shots on target against Juventus, 6th in the table, 3 wins out of 3 at home. Maybe they're working out another miracle. I think the champions are going to win this one, but it could be a high-scoring game. That's why I go for a win and over 1.5 goals.
The thing is, Steve, I just think that I mean, I know Daniele likes a plus money pick here. Fair play to Daniele for doing this, but Napoli just minus 117 looks value to me. How do you see this game?
And there's no doubt about it, minus 117 does look a very good price on a Napoli side who really should be much better than Lecce. But we're in a head-to-head contest here, Dan. You know, every single cent matters. So I can certainly see why Daniele's got creative. But secondly, and I had this with Rory the other week, if you are betting on these combo same-game parlays, how much do you fear the 1-0 exact win for Napoli? And I think the answer is really not very much, because I look back, only 4 times last season did they win 1-0 in any competition. And away from home, the only time they did it was against Roma and Juventus, which is a little bit of a different sort of fixture. New manager now, of course, Rudy Garcia. I've seen him plenty over the years, and he's not really a 1-0 type of manager either. He, in fact, his last actual full season at Lyon, he only won 4 games by that scoreline. So if they win, it's not going to be 1-0. So I think it kind of makes sense, actually, to make this a plus money parlay. But for those, listening, you want to keep it more simple, then straight on the nose is good. This TikTok thing is absolutely ridiculous. But I cannot believe whoever's in charge of this social media. I mean, TikTok, I don't have it.
Genius.
I must say.
It's a genius.
I don't have it.
It's not for us, Steve. It's not for us. We are not the target audience. We don't get it. We are not supposed to get it. If all 4 of us would get it, I'll be seriously worried. I think it's
the only TikTok I know is that song. Remember it from Kesha?
No, I know. It's absolutely bonkers. It's bonkers. It's bonkers.
I'm 52 years old. I don't know who Kesha is, and I don't know what TikTok is. James, are you on TikTok?
No, I'm not on TikTok. No, I'm with Daniele on this one. I think, we should probably sit this one out, shouldn't we? It's not our...
it's not for us.
Our opinion, whatever we say, the opposite is probably what they're looking for. So, it's not my thing.
Just to put the final word on it, Osimhen has got bigger problems with Napoli, which is the contract renewal that is going on until the summer. So probably there is something much more pressing for him than a stupid TikTok video.
Osimhen is plus 100 to score. Kvaratskhelia is plus 245 to score. Got his first of the season in midweek, as Daniele was pointing out. Let's get James's first selection here. Clermont versus Paris Saint-Germain is the game that we focus on. The Paris club are minus 240, very short, as they nearly always are. This is 11 a.m. Saturday Eastern. Daniele's first game, incidentally, 9 a.m. Eastern on Saturday. For all Paris Saint-Germain's poor start to the campaign, James, they're only 2 points off the pace heading into the next match week, and they're still ridiculously short for the title. Steve highlighted PSG on the Asian handicap last week, and you've gone down a similar route here.
Yes, I'm back in Paris Saint-Germain here on the Asian handicap, minus 1.5 goal start, which is available at plus 115. So it's essentially a bet on PSG to win the game by 2 goals or more. I think this price is completely wrong, Dan. I agree totally with Steve and his handicap pick last week. I don't think the market is reading PSG right, because you're right, they're not top of the table. If you look just at their points, it doesn't look like an outstanding start, but they're actually playing really, really well. And they've got better as the season has gone on. They were very good value last weekend for their 4-0 win against Marseille. They beat Dortmund in their match before that with no problems whatsoever. You've got a chance here to back PSG to win by 2 goals against the bottom club in Ligue 1. I think it's too good an opportunity to miss. I really do. So, yeah, plus 115 to win by 2 goals, Dan, on PSG. I think it's a really, really strong shout, this.
James, are they getting sneaky good, Paris Saint-Germain? I know it sounds ridiculous to say that, but I did watch the Dortmund game. Now, Dortmund might not be, a good Dortmund vintage at the moment, but even so, they brushed. It just looked like a professional display. And I'm lifting this from another podcast. It's almost like PSG had a bit of identity that they were a Galacticos team, and now suddenly they look more like a proper team. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's come through in their performances. Even the ones they haven't won this season, actually, Dan, that's come through. One piece of team news to flag up here. We're filming this about 48 hours before the game. We don't think Kylian Mbappe will start this match. He went off with an ankle injury against Marseille last week. They might not risk him because the game after this one is Newcastle United in the Champions League, which is a huge game. But the thing to point out here, are they weaker if Kylian Mbappe doesn't play? Yes, of course they are, same as any team in the world. But they're much better now up front without him. We saw that last weekend against Marseille. He went off early in the game. It made hardly any difference because they've got Kolo Muani, who scored. They've got Gonzalo Ramos, who scored a couple of games. And I think that feeds into what you're looking at, Dan. They've got players there in Kolo Muani and Gonzalo Ramos that are happy. I wouldn't say happy, maybe that's the wrong word, but will start on the bench and not complain, but are good quality when they come on. And that's something that PSG didn't have last season underneath the Galacticos. So you're looking at a PSG side here who can play for 90 minutes, who've got better quality in key positions on the bench. So I think if Mbappe doesn't play this weekend, my advice would be, if you're someone that waits till the team news before placing your bet, I wouldn't let it put you off, because I think even without him, their chances of winning by a couple of goals are really good here.
This is the interesting thing about that. And I mentioned to Nigel Seeley on the Premier League show about players who can move the market one way or the other. There was a big thing about Erling Haaland last season when he didn't play for Manchester City and City drifted. I mean, City actually scored more goals in the previous season collectively than they did when Haaland played for City last season. And it's as if they were playing with 10 men. Now, there's not too many players who can move the market. I mean, Steve, if Mbappe doesn't play, do Paris Saint-Germain and this bet get a little bit bigger?
Probably.
I'm not saying it's going to make a difference, as James has just explained, but just in terms of the price.
It should in theory, but I think the market is actually factoring in. They're expecting him not to play, because it is worth mentioning, obviously, that they got the Newcastle fixture on the horizon. That's probably what's more the focus is on. It's probably the only doubt I would have about this bet, actually, whether they're actually looking ahead past Clermont foot. But I would have had my house on James having this pick this week, knowing him from last season. I would have absolutely no doubt about it whatsoever. Poor Clermont. The problem is that they probably have the worst squad in the league on paper. Metz might have something to say about that, but they've hung on for the last 2 years brilliantly. They've overachieved in all their metrics, and finally this season it's kind of gone the other way. And PSG have won. They like this ground, 6-1 and 5-0. They've won here the last 2 seasons, so it's really hard to make a case for Clermont foot. I think it's interesting. James has took the more aggressive handicap here. I think on last year's show it would have been minus 1.25 handicap, wouldn't it, James? But we're in this head-to-head contest. Every single cent matters. I actually liked what I saw from PSG when Mbappe went off last week. I'm seeing hunger from the players, Dan, like Kolo Muani, Dembele, Giancarlo Ramos. I think they want to prove a point, and I've not necessarily seen that in this PSG ranks in the last couple of years. So I think it was very encouraging for them, and even if they're not actually focused, they should still brush aside this Clermont side quite easily. And you're looking at sort of 3-0 feels about right here. I don't think Clermont will actually score.
We've had a plus 120 pick from Daniele, plus 115 pick from James. Just throw this one back to Daniele very quickly. If Osimhen doesn't start, does the Napoli price change at all? Is he that important? Do we see price changes when Osimhen starts or doesn't start?
Well, 4 goals in 6 games. Yeah, I think the price will slightly change, but I'm expecting him to start. Nonetheless, at the weekend, at the midweek, Simeone scored. Raspadori got a couple of goals, so Napoli got plenty of options as well. But yeah, I think they'll start with both Kvaratskhelia and
let's get Steve's hot dog, shall we? Because the hot dog has been barking loudly recently. That's because Steve has basically tipped up Hoffenheim to win for the last few weeks. Because of the nature of our schedule, and when we publish these shows, we've or we sort of steered Steve away from Hoffenheim again. Would you have picked them again, Steve, if they were playing on Sunday afternoon?
They're plus 220 to beat Dortmund, and if I wouldn't want to put anyone off that, I wouldn't be surprised. Would I have gone with them again? I probably would have liked the balls for this one, I think, because there's other options. But
okay,
the hot dog has been going well, and I'm 3-3 now for that this season. Thanks for anyone who's been sending the comments in. As per always, it's the hot dog that seems to get any messages that I receive.
This is the biggest. This one is the biggest price that you've had so far this season, I think.
Yes, I think it is. We're going in France, and I'm going with Le Havre on the money line, plus 310 to beat Lille. Now, Lille are minus money here with Bet Rivers, minus 112, and anyone who watched them on Wednesday night against Reims at home, I don't think you could really stomach backing them at minus money at the moment. It was such a poor performance from Lille. They look disjointed. This is an easier fixture on paper, but Le Havre have actually impressed me. But if you had said to me, I've personally backed them the last 2 weeks. If you had said to me pre-season that after game round 7, I would have backed them 3 times, I would have been like, "What? You're coming down with something?" Because I didn't fancy them to do well. Their manager, Luca Elsner, is a coach who I never used to rate much. I thought he had a really poor season at Amiens back in the COVID season. I think he went to Standard Liège in Belgium and got sacked, averaging less than a point per game. I thought it was a terrible appointment for Le Havre starter last season, but he got them promoted. And he started the season really well. My big concern for Le Havre was scoring goals this season. They didn't score many in the second tier last term. But, do you know what's actually happened is teams now feel like they have to beat them, and they're a lot more open against Le Havre. And this coach has adapted really well. He's realised that, and he's made them more offensively better. And they get more chances on the break, on the counter-attack. This could be a similar game to Lorient against Lille a few weeks ago, where Lille put a shambles of a defensive performance and lost 4-1. For some reason, Lille are a very underachieving metrical side under this manager. Last season, they had the second most expected points, but underachieved by over 9 goals in attack. Now, how do you do that with Jonathan David in your team? It's really bizarre. The problem is if he doesn't get into the game, and he didn't on Wednesday night, the rest of the team just can't make up for him. So if Le Havre can keep David quiet, I think they can do really well here. They've got a whole week of rest. This coach is definitely improving himself tactically a lot. And Lille, if they play like that again, they're going to really struggle. So plus 310 on the money line. It could be a draw, this one. But I think it's absolutely worth a nibble at these odds. There's no way I would touch Lille at minus money here, Dan.
May as well get James' very quick thoughts on that, given James is one of our Ligue experts. Is that an interesting play for you?
Yeah, I think Le Havre surprised everybody, Dan, not just with getting more points than we thought, but as Steve has said, by playing a completely different style of football than we saw from them when they were promoted last season. I think the point about Jonathan David's a fair one. The Lille manager, Paulo Fonseca, has complained almost every week about the fact that he does not have a backup striker in the squad, which when you think about it is extraordinary, actually, for a club of Lille's size, who are playing in Europe as well. They don't have a proper number 2 striker. And I think that puts too much responsibility on Jonathan David. He's going to have the odd off day. It's going to happen. He's been a great goal scorer the last couple of years for Lille. But when he doesn't fire, as Steve said, you look at the bench at Lille, it's like, who can we bring on to get a goal? There's hardly anybody there. So I think that is a problem, and will probably be a problem again this weekend.
Let's get Daniele's second pick. Once again, we go to Italy. Obviously, we got the boys' picks late Wednesday night after the midweek, or most of the midweek games in Italy. And I was quite surprised, Daniele, that you picked Inter, given that they were beaten by Sassuolo in midweek. But you are sticking with them. They are away at Salernitana. Maybe that's one of the reasons that you're sticking with them. They're plus 600, Salernitana, Inter minus 230. This is Saturday, 2:45 Eastern. Talk us through your pick here.
Well, Inter, after the 5-1 win at the derby, I think they suffer a little bit of hangover. 3 bad games. They deserve to lose in Spain in the Champions League manager draw against Empoli, luckily, and against took the lead, but faded out. They seemed very, very weak and a bit concerning, the fact that the physical form wasn't quite there. And yes, they picked up the first defeat of the season, but now they travel to Salernitana, who haven't kept a single clean sheet in 6 games. And if you look at the last season as well, it's only 1 clean sheet in the last 12. They got absolutely battered by an Empoli side that was in crisis, had not scored a single goal previously, had already changed the manager. Ochoa, the goalkeeper of Salernitana, had to make 4 important saves. Empoli expected goal was 2.30. So yes, 1-0 win was really perhaps they should have conceded more. Conceded 26 goals last season at the Arechi last year. Salernitana, the big question mark is whether the top goal scorer Boulaye Dia is going to start. There were issues with his transfer that didn't happen to Wolverhampton in the last day of the transfer market. Look, statistically, this is a mismatch. Top against bottom for expected points. If you look at expected points based on expected goals, Salernitana are out of the bottom 3 only on goal difference. They got last season the first worst defense in Serie A. I think Inter should be able to win this one.
Okay, Inter to win, but you've put a bit of a cherry on top to get a plus money selection for us, Daniele.
Inter win and Lautaro Martinez to score, that goes plus 120. So, I mean, in this head-to-head, you have to go with the big money prizes. Lautaro Martinez didn't score against Sassuolo, but came close at the end. 5 goals in 4 games against Salernitana for Martinez. I think these things play on a striker's mind. Arnautovic is injured, so Inter have to go with Martinez and Thuram from the start again. All the away games this season for Inter have been under 2.5 goals. Lost, as I mentioned, against Sassuolo. Mistakes from Sommer. They need a reaction. They can't really afford another draw here as they did last season. Inter win and Lautaro Martinez to be on the score sheet, plus 120.
Steve, Martinez, a bit of a streaky striker, isn't he? Inter taken to bounce back. What's your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, he does go very hot and then very cold, doesn't he? I think he scored in his first 3 games and now he's drawn a blank. I was looking into him. I didn't actually realise he was the captain, which is very interesting. This is really a bet, I think, on Martinez to score because Inter will win the game. Salernitana, I had them pre-season, I think, as my relegation pick in this league. They just lost to Empoli, and Empoli are terrible, by the way. I mean, there's some really poor teams at the bottom of Serie A right now, in my opinion. There's shockingly poor metrics and all sorts of bad results. Inter will get the result here, especially off the back of a loss. Sassuolo are actually one of those wildcard teams who can beat anyone on the day, can't they? So I wouldn't actually hold it that much against them, even though it was at home. This should be a clear away win. We're talking probably multiple goals from Inter. So then it's just a question whether Martinez can get himself on the score sheet. I don't know their penalty situation. Will it be on penalties, Daniele?
He's not the penalty taker. It's Çalhanoğlu, but he's the second penalty taker. So, depending if high-scoring game, I take one. But I fancy him to have chances against Salernitana defense that is no better than last season.
Yeah, so he's it's good value for Daniele again. You could just take him straight to score, or you could look at into handicaps. But within this head-to-head, we're looking for decent plus money plays. I think is it plus 120, Daniele? This is
that's plus 120.
Yeah, it just comes down to the scorer, I think, in this one, Dan.
I mean, any other day, any other time, and Dan knows me from doing the show last season. Probably I would have taken an Inter Asian handicap minus 0.75 or minus money, but because he's a head-to-head. Because he's a head-to-head, you gotta win. You just can't think about I'm gonna turn a small profit. You gotta win.
I like this.
To be fair, Daniele, just to be fair, the handicap is huge on Inter. I think it's minus 1.25 or even minus 1.5 in places.
That's
so
risky. That's risky.
Yeah,
considering
risky.
They won 1-0 at Empoli, 2-0 at Cagliari, at Real, Ciudad Real, Real Sociedad. They didn't do very well. I think it's risky.
So Daniele's second pick, plus 120. The odds for that one, that's Inter to win and Martinez to score. We've got another plus 120 pick from James, all plus money picks this week. We go once again to France, James. Lorient, Montpellier. 2 teams with identical records, but you can split them with your selection, sort of. Talk us through your play.
Yeah, so my play here, Dan, is on Lorient, draw no bet or 0 on the Asian handicap market. It's the same thing at home to Montpellier, and they're available at plus 120. So the prices here, to me, look completely wrong. As you've said, these are 2 teams with identical records. They're both 1 win, 3 draws, and 2 defeats so far this season. So they're neck and neck in the league table. And yet Lorient at home are a much bigger price to win than Montpellier. Lorient are plus 200 to win the game. and Montpellier are plus 125. And it's those prices that then give you, well, it's great. It's a chance to back Lorient 0 on the Asian handicap at plus money. So I've looked at this every which way, Dan. Looked at the form of the two teams, not just in terms of those league results, but how have they played from watching the games, looked at some of the stats. I don't think we need to worry too much about team news here. There's nobody I can see crucial for either side that's going to be missing. It's very, very difficult to know why Lorient, as the home side, are so much bigger than Montpellier. And that was really my thinking here. It's like too good an opportunity to back a team in what looks like a 50-50 matchup to, at the very least, avoid defeat at plus money. It's just too good to miss.
This is Sunday, 11:05 Eastern in the morning, incidentally. Steve, do you concur with James's thoughts?
Well, I have to concur because this is actually a bet I took on Monday myself. I actually didn't expect James to have this as a pick, but I thought he might go with the lean he has later. I was pretty sure he would go with that one, but he's absolutely right. The prices are wrong for this game. Now, most of us kind of, before we see odds, we kind of make up our own odds, what we think's fair, what we want. And I've got some numbers here. I have Lorient as a minus 0.25 favourite, about even money in this game, which would imply, in the estimations and percentages, 42% home win chance, 31% draw, and 27% away. The implied numbers from Bet Rivers suggest that Montpellier have a 40% chance of winning this game. Now, I disagree completely with that. And there will be people watching this show who disagree with that. But if over 100 matches, if you betted on Lorient at plus 120 on a draw no bet or Asian handicap 0, you're going to be making over 20 units. And over 10 bets, even if it was a 4-3-3 split over 10 bets, 4 Lorient wins, 3 draws, 3 Montpellier wins, you'd make 1.8 unit profit from 10. And that's, it's 18%. So this is statistically and percentagely long term. These are the situations you get an edge on the book. If you believe that, then you've got to go with it. And I'm certainly in agreement with James here, but this price stood out completely wrong. But that's why this makes this betting industry so fascinating, because there will be some people watching the show who think that Montpellier deserve to be favourites.
Well, one thing to say here as well, Dan, this happened on Lorient games at home this time last year. I don't know if Steve remembers from the show, but they were really long odds regularly during the autumn last season to win at home. Now, if you look at their home form, you might think, well, if they keep being long odds at home, maybe their home form is really, really poor. But it's not. They're unbeaten in 3 at home this season, and they've only actually lost 6 at home in 22 matches since the start of last season. So every which way you look at this, it's very difficult to make a case here for the prices. I simply think they're wrong. And I think for people out there, it's just too good an opportunity to miss.
There's one thing I'll just say, Dan. Yeah. There is a very weird head-to-head here. And I don't know, this might be a factor. I don't really look at head-to-heads. But Montpellier have won to 0 on all their last 3 visits to this stadium, which I think is a bit of an anomaly. It is it's a difficult place to go. And so I don't know whether that's factored in. I can't believe it would be. But,
I don't know whether how they work it out. I would have thought it might be an element of some rating system. We need Will White on the show to talk about that. But I'm not a massive head-to-head fan. Certainly, you can delve back into the archive. It's different players, different coaches. A lot of the time, it seems irrelevant. But we think that the market makers have got this one wrong. James likes Lorient plus 0 on the Asian handicap. Against Montpellier at home at plus 120. We've had 2 picks from Italy, 2 picks from France for our head-to-head challenge. Of course, we like to get Steve's bets as well. And Steve, you are Bundesliga bound for both of your picks this week. Talk us through your best bets on the weekend card.
Yes, I'm starting with Bochum against Borussia Mönchengladbach. And you knew I'd be delving into Bochum again soon, Dan. I think they're terrible. They're especially defensively. They've got an absolute spanking last week by Bayern Munich, 7-0, which was expected. I think they were a plus 3.5 Asian handicap dog. So in a way, we can't hold it against them too much, can we? But they're shocking. I can't believe that Borussia Mönchengladbach are plus 185 dog here. I mean, that's wrong, surely. I think the reason is because they're winless so far, and they're also conceding goals left, right, and centre. The bet I'm going with is the Mönchengladbach team total goals over 1.5 at plus 112. I mean, I think this is a madness. I mean, a plus plus money just to score 2 goals against this Bochum defense, which in the 2 home games, they've had a couple of 1-1 draws. One of those was against Dortmund in a local derby, which is completely different, where they actually had a different formation. And the other match was a 1-1 draw where the expected goals were through the roof and they got very, very lucky. If anyone would fancy scoring 2 goals against this defense right now, absolutely anyone. So no hesitation, back in Borussia Mönchengladbach at plus money. They may well win the game. And I looked at the overs as well. The goal line's at 3, but taking this, it covers the 0-2 score, 2-1 to Gladbach, a full winner, and also 3-0 or greater, and it's a full winner. So I'd just rather put it in their hands to score the 2 goals, Dan. And I might even be able to tempt James into a bet in this game, because one of his old favourites, Frank Honorat, is plus 300 to score any time against Bochum here, minus 132 for a shot on target.
It's a yes from me. Get on him all day. I love Frank Honorat. Great player in League One for years. Yes.
There you go. There's a lean for you. That's Bochum Gladbach. What about Mainz Leverkusen? We're looking at the goal line again, Steve, on this one.
Goals. Yeah, over 3 goals here at minus 121 the last time I looked. I really think Leverkusen are a tremendous side. 2nd or 3rd best in this country now at the moment, along with Leipzig. They're the real deal. Xabi Alonso, they're saying he's going to be the next Real Madrid manager, don't they? And I can see why. Full of goals, this team. Just the style they play and also the quality they've got up front. Victor Boniface is an interesting striker. Could he go in the same direction as like an Osimhen and just explode? Is this the season that he does it in? Well, he's in the right sort of side. And this is the right sort of opponent, because Mainz, I've got to admit, probably of all the Bundesliga teams, I actually know less about them. I don't tend to watch too many of their games, but if you look at their stats, it's not good for Mainz. A lot of goals conceded this season. They're actually bottom of the table, or the bit on goal difference. There's quite a few poor teams down at the bottom of Bundesliga as well right now. It's just a simple case that Leverkusen really should be too strong. I looked at the handicap here as well, minus 0.75 on by Leverkusen. But I prefer the goals because they do give up some chances to the visitors here. It's going to be a theme over the next few weeks. I will be betting on Bayer Leverkusen overs a lot. I think I already did it in the Europa League. And they're just one of them sides that are right on my radar for really entertaining football and styles. And unless Mainz suddenly just try and shut up shop, I don't even think they're capable of doing it, really. Then there should be at least 3 goals. Over 3 goal line. There's a push if there's 3 goals exactly. But I think we're looking at 4 or more, really, Dan.
2 bets in the Bundesliga from Steve. Let's get some leans. I don't think we've got the record of our leans this season. We'll have to get Joe, who does all our stats, to sort of top them all up to see if we're winning or not. I get the sense that we probably are, because we have some very good leans. We've got 1 from Daniele, 1 from James, couple from Steve. Let's rattle through these, shall we? Daniele, what's your lean? Sunday, midday Eastern time, the game that you're focusing on?
It's Atalanta-Juventus, both in the top 4. The lean is X2 and under 3.5 goals, plus 102. So Juve not to be defeated at the Stadio Azzurri d'Italia. Difficult to read Juventus. They take 1 step forwards and 2 backwards. They got pummeled by Sassuolo. Then against Lecce, clean sheet and no shots on target for the visitors. I think Juventus probably, in this moment that they're looking for their identity, they're going to revert to the old version of themselves. Be solid, compact, probably a low block, and try to hit Atalanta on the counter. Atalanta, on the other hand, have kept 3 home clean sheets and another clean sheet on their travel to Verona. So out of a sudden, they become extremely solid. Well, I don't know. But Atalanta played 1 more game in the last 2 weeks because they were playing in Europa League, and maybe they're slightly tired coming into this one. Juventus didn't play in Europe, of course. If you watch the game at Sassuolo, you would never imagine that because they lost. But I think they're not going to lose against Atalanta here. By the way, I do look ahead to heads. The last 4 games, same managers, same teams, most of the same players, all under 4.5 goals. Juventus unbeaten in 4 against Atalanta. I don't think they're going to lose here.
Just very, very quickly, Daniel, I did that Sassuolo Juventus game for the TV here, and we talked last week about, we're going to find out whether it's worth something that Juve aren't playing in Europe. We're still none the wiser, are we, really?
Oh, we don't know, because if they approach the game that way with a lack of intensity and hunger, I mean, the first shots on target was the goal of Chiesa, 77 minutes. Yeah, there's no value for fighting for the Scudetto. Allegri says the objective is finishing 4th. that's just the minimum. They should be there or thereabout. We'll find out in February when knockout rounds starts.
James, what's your lean? It's a selection that Steve thought might be one of your official plays.
Yeah, and it was very close to that. My lean here, Dan, is Reims to win at home to Lyon, which is available at plus 112. There's a general point here to make about Reims, Dan. I think if you're a casual follower of Ligue 1, in your head, you probably group Reims with Brest, Clermont as one of these sides who are really just looking to avoid relegation. That has all changed now. Reims spent £40 million on new players in the summer. 40 million blows out of the water any previous transfer dealings that they've had. This is a team aiming for a top 6 place this season. They're currently in 5th place, highly ambitious, got a very good manager. Lyon, too much to talk about there. They're in complete chaos on and off the pitch. The main point for Lyon on this game is Alexandre Lacazette, the only player in their squad who can score goals, is suspended. So I think this is a great chance to back Reims to win at home at plus money. That's Reims to win at plus 112.
Steve, you've gone to Spain for us here. First of all, Girona, Real Madrid. What a season Girona having here. You've got a couple of plays in this one for us.
Yeah, I thought we'd better get a bit of La Liga on the show. And Girona, I have to say, I credit Rory here for getting me interested in this team. You know, that match where he had on Monday night, I think we all had our eyes on them, didn't we? And
yeah,
I watched them and I'm like, wow, this team are well worth backing on the overs probably most weeks. And they're playing some really good football. So they've got Real Madrid this weekend. And they were nearly my dog, actually. +2. There's 2 picks I like here. I think Girona are worth a nibble on the money line at +270. They beat them last season here, 4-2. And over 2.75 is probably the safer play at -121. They were nearly my hot dog of the week. But I was watching Real Madrid last night. And Vinicius Jr. came on as a substitute. Now, in my mind, I thought he was out until after the next international break. That's a massive boost for Real Madrid, and it might be the difference maker. So that put me off Girona. But this side, and managed by Michel, I have to say they are playing some great football. A really high XG, so metrically they're not being lucky or anything. And well worth backing the goals and maybe a little bit of an underdog here against Real Madrid.
And Monday, 3 p.m. Eastern, you've got to play for us as well.
Yeah, Las Palmas against Celta. I've probably watched Las Palmas more than any other La Liga team this season, and they are the lean is under 2.25 goals at -118. They have a combination of overachieving defensively and underachieving offensively. So that sort of concoction usually leads to unders. Every single one of their matches under 2.5 so far. The thing with Las Palmas that impresses me the most, they've got a goalkeeper, Alvaro Valles. I'd never heard of him before, but every time I watch him play, he makes some really good saves. He's one to watch, I think. 26-year-old, contracts up in 2024. And that's why they're overachieving at the back. This guy makes some phenomenal saves. The Celta here traveling to Gran Canaria. I'm not saying it's a tough place to go, but it's a sort of a weird, awkward place to go, isn't it? You know,
far. It's far. If anything, it's very far from Celta, from Vigo, from the north of Spain.
Yeah,
probably 3 hours.
Just,
3 hours on the plane.
I wouldn't mind. I don't mind going to Gran Canaria, but I don't think the players really want to be traveling out there too often. I think it's going to be a damp squib of a game. Could be 0-0, 1-0 either way. And if you look at the style of both teams as well, they're down towards the bottom of the table. It could be a nervous encounter. So I think the goal line should actually be 2 or even 1.75, Dan. So to get the 2.25 goal line, you still win half if there's exactly 2 goals. So that's what my lean would be on this Monday night fixture.
Those are the leans from the boys. Let's just get a reminder of the picks. Daniele, your 2 official picks for the head-to-head challenge are...
So both game on Saturday, Lecce Napoli. Napoli win and over 1.5 goals plus 120. Salernitana Inter win and Lautaro Martinez to score plus 120.
James?
Paris Saint-Germain minus 1.5 on the Asian handicap away at Clermont at plus 115. And Lorient plus 0 on the Asian handicap at home to Montpellier at plus 120.
This is Steve's favourite bit of the show. He waits for he absolutely loves this bit. He just thinks this is where I can shine. This is it. The focus is on me. Who's going to win? Who's going to win the head-to-head challenge, Steve? We're 7 weeks in. You're 0 from 6. I'm not going to. If you don't get it right this week, I won't mention it again. I promise you. They're all plus money picks. Good picks from our boys. Come on.
You're going to be taking over from me on this prediction at the end of the show soon, Dan. It's difficult because again, I don't dislike any of the picks. So what I'm doing now is I'm going kind of by the form book. And you were right. This seems to be a very difficult championship to defend. So I'll just say James, because I think, is he the only one that's actually defended?
James is the only one.
So it seems a difficult. It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one to defend, but I like all the picks.
But if all the picks come up, I think Daniele's got the better odds. I think.
Yeah,
a couple of plus 120s.
Yeah, I think he would win by 0.05. I mean, one thing I will say, Dan, we are definitely due a week where someone, if not both, actually have a clean sweep. So that's going to come up pretty soon.
I reckon you could be right. I think he could be this weekend. Let's hope so. Steve, Daniele, James, thanks for your company. Good luck to all. We'll keep school throughout. We'll be posting on Twitter over the course of the weekend to keep everyone up to date. That wraps up Betting Weekly Extra Time European show. I'll be back alongside Steve next week, of course, as will one of Daniele or James, who will be taking on professional bettor Will White. Stay across all of Bet Rivers content this weekend via @BecauseWeWin. From all of us for now, though, it is goodbye.